Hey guys, let's get this Danconia. Welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020. So, I'm going to start a fun little segment and I'm going to do in the middle of the week to kind of expand the Overwatch League Roundup slightly. This is going to be the top 5 players from the weekend. So, this week obviously, week 1, we're going to look at the top 5 players, in my opinion, that really did make a massive difference to their teams during this weekend. So, we're going to start off at the Toronto Defiant. We're going to start off with Surefour. Surefour, he made a massive difference when he came on for the Toronto Defiant. So, on map 1, they didn't play Surefour, they played Agilities and Logics. They lost that map pretty convincingly to the Paris Eternal. But then they decided to bring on Surefour, and things really changed for the Toronto Defiant. During that match, they ended up getting a 3-1 win over the Paris Eternal and managing... To be quite honest, the Paris Eternal weren't playing all that badly. You will hear of the Paris Eternal in this video, so the Paris Eternal actually had a good weekend, but Toronto Defiant managed to find a way past the Paris Eternal, and a lot of it was down to Surefour getting those flanks, distracting the Paris Eternal. His stats are really, really good, right? And thank you to the Overwatch League for, doing the stats lab, because this is really interesting to look at. So, Surefour had the third most elims on his team. He was behind the 2 tanks, so Beast and Nevix. Nevix topped this with 104. Beast had 88 and Surefour had 87. What we have to remember is that Surefour played less time than Beast and Nevix. Nevix was on the D.Va a lot of the time as well, so you kind of get a lot of splash damage as D.Va with her rockets and with the spray from her primary fire. So it's very easy to just knock up limbs, right, with D.Va. The great stat is the final blows. So final blows, Surefour leads. Surefour leads for final blows with 36. That's 3 more than Beast and 9 more than Logics and Agilities. Then when we look at hero damage, he is second again only to Beast. Actually, Beast's stats are actually pretty impressive. Beast has got 40k hero damage. That's 10,000 more damage than Surefour did at 28,830. And Surefour has got about 3k more than the next best, which is Agilities. Agilities had quite a bit of time in the match, so Logics is the outlier here because he didn't get a massive amount of time. He only played 19 minutes. But Surefour clearly on top of the stats here for the DPS. And then we look at things like deaths and stuff like that. So with deaths, Surefour actually is doing really well once again. He matched Kellex for the amount of deaths he had, 23 during the match, and that's only 1 more than their lowest. Well, I say lowest, Logics actually had less deaths, but to be quite honest, Logics didn't play nowhere near the time that these other players did. So if we compare him to, let's say, a respectable amount of time being played, Kareev had the least deaths with 22. That's only 1 less than what Surefour had. So Surefour actually doing really well. And remember, Surefour was on the Reaper a lot. Mei, Sombra, Symmetra. It's really interesting picks. And when you compare the Reaper that Surefour bought out to the Reaper that Logics bought out, they don't compare. They have similar limbs, and the time played is very similar as well. But when you look at the deaths, Surefour died so many less times than Logics did. This was clearly the gap in quality on the first map, which led to the Toronto Defiant losing the first map. So Surefour really did turn up this weekend for the Toronto Defiant. He's going to be very key to their season if they want to do well. Next up, we move over to the Dallas Fuel. This is Decay. So, I don't think anyone can argue with the fact that Decay really did carry the Dallas Fuel this weekend, even though the Dallas Fuel didn't win a game. So, fun fact, the most final blows in a single match across the weekend, that prize goes to Decay. He had 66 final blows in the match against the Valiant. That's beating KSP in the very same match by 2. And those 2 are by far ahead of the next best, which is 56 and Striker for the San Francisco Shock against the Fuel. What a surprise. But Decay was carrying the Dallas Fuel to fight wins and sometimes a map win. The problem is you can't rely on that one player that much. Dohart did a good job, but Decay was clearly the standout carry for the Dallas Fuel. The problem is he's going to break his back because he can't carry that much. And the rest of the Fuel really didn't keep up with Decay. It's a real shame really, because Decay probably wouldn't get into the Los Angeles Gladiators roster now, but he looks really, really good. And if Dallas can build a team around Decay, then Dallas have got a really, really good DPS on their hands. Because Decay, again, really good with the stats all weekend, and he comes in at number 4 on my top 5 players for this weekend. But in number 3, we have Hacksaw. Hacksaw, I keep saying this, right? It is beautiful to see Hacksaw's Genji nano boosted by Rouge Hong's Ana. It is just a thing of absolute beauty. So, when we compare Hacksaw this weekend to the other Genji that is notable, it's Who Are You of the NYXL. Hacksaw wins pretty much every metric here. The only metric he doesn't win is eliminations per 10 minutes. Hacksaw's final blows per 10 minutes are by far better than Who Are You, and his hero damage per 10 minutes is by far better. Then we look at his stats compared to the rest of his team, and still he holds up really, really well. So, over the weekend, Hacksaw got 182 elims, that is second only to Janu on 198. His final blows, though, are by far the best in his team with 71, being far ahead of Janu on 59. Now, this is where it's actually quite interesting because he's been playing a lot of the Mei, a lot more Mei than he has been Genji, right? But his final blows are actually higher on Genji than they are on Mei. He got 34 final blows on Genji compared to 32 on the Mei. Compare his time played on each hero. He played an hour of Mei during the weekend, whereas he played 21 minutes of Genji. That is actually bonkers. That is bonkers to see that sort of stat. And it's really, really good to see that Hacksaw his Genji has not suffered by being stuck in Mei jail and back in the day in GOATs and stuff like that, where he was just stuck on these ridiculous heroes. And we always want to see people popping off on things like the Genji and stuff like that. And Hacksaw will be, if we get to a sort of meta that allows Genji to be played a lot more, because we didn't see a massive amount of it at the weekend, but Hacksaw will be one of the best, if not the best Genjis in the league if we get to that point where Genji is played a lot. And his Mei is absolutely no slouch. His Mei is right up there with the best. So Hacksaw is definitely going to be a very key part to this Vancouver Titans team during their season, and he comes in at number 3. But at number 2, we move over to the NYXL. It's none other than Hotba. So, Hotba had a weekend, we could say, couldn't we? Hotba has really, really impressed. Now, Hotba, we knew Hotba was decent, right? We knew Hotba was decent. He's got really good game knowledge as well. But this weekend, he really, really demonstrated what he can do. Now, obviously, he played a lot of D.Va. There are some teams that didn't play D.Va at all, so like Dallas Fuel and Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal were kind of forced into it. But some teams didn't play D.Va at all. When we look at the D.Va stats, though, Hotba is right up there with the best. So, Hotba's final blows, 63 over the weekend. That is more than any other D.Va in the league. More than McGravy, more than Janu, and more than Banar. Solo kills is also really good for Hotba, where he's seen 6 solo kills over the weekend, which it's not too easy these days for D.Va to get solo kills. He's 1 behind Banar. I was actually pretty impressed with Banar's stats on D.Va, and that's something else I'd like to talk about at some point. Banar, definitely no slouch for the London Spitfire, but he can't make it onto this list right now. Hotba, though, definitely right up there. And what's most impressive about Hotba's stats is the amount of deaths. His deaths are by far the least for D.Vas that have been played by... A caveat to this is you must have played at least 60 minutes on D.Va. There are other D.Vas like Choi Hyobin who didn't play 60 minutes that have less deaths. But when you compare the good amount of playtime on D.Va, Hotba, he's got 23 deaths. That's 10 less than the next best, which is Banar on 33. That is so, so good. And staying alive, that's the best thing you can do in Overwatch games. Hotba, he's very good at judging situations, reading the game, going in, getting a kill, getting out, but getting out with his life. Getting out with his mech, getting out with his life, and carrying on with the team. Really, really good play from Hotba this weekend. And need we forget, plenty of ults negated this weekend, and a ton of bomb kills. An absolute ton of ult kills on that D.Va for Hotba this weekend, especially during that London match. So, really well done to Hotba this weekend. But there is one player I have got to put above Hotba this weekend. It's XZ of the Paris Eternal. He actually went nuts this weekend. He went absolutely bonkers. So, when we look at XZ on the stats board here, this is ranking per 10 minutes for every single player that played this weekend. So final blows per 10 minutes, XZ leads it by quite a margin over KSP. Eliminations per 10 minutes, XZ is only just second to Janu, who played D.Va for more time than XZ played on one specific hero. Janu literally played D.Va the entire weekend. Then we have hero damage per 10 minutes. XZ actually leads this again by quite a margin ahead of KSP. Then we have solo kills per 10 minutes. XZ comes in fourth, joint second actually, with Nene, KSP, and only a little bit behind Decay. And we've already talked about Decay. Decay was bonkers, let's be honest. But XZ absolutely bonkers this weekend. And to demonstrate how much XZ carried the Paris Eternal this weekend, his eliminations, 184, 10 more than No Smite. His final blows, 94. The next best is Ben Best on 47. That is absolutely crazy. No, like, that is just ridiculous. How much of a gap there is on the final blow stat for Paris Eternal this weekend. Then you look at hero damage. 83,408 hero damage done. The next best, 57,500 for Ben Best. The margin that XZ is ahead of everyone else at the Paris Eternal is just bonkers. Ults earned, 49.4. Their next best is Ben Best again with 42. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And his damage taken is much less than a lot of players on the team. It's just phenomenal what XZ is doing for the Paris Eternal right now. And if Sparkle and Hanbin can live up to anything like XZ's debut for the Paris Eternal has been, then we are looking at a team that is going to be frightening. And I'm not even joking. XZ is looking and shaping up. If he can maintain this sort of consistency, he is shaping up to be one of the best DPS players in the league. Without a doubt. He can go toe to toe with the best. And remember, we were comparing his stats just now with everyone in the league. And we have seen the NYXL this weekend, the San Francisco Shock this weekend, and the Vancouver Titans. Bearing in mind, San Francisco Shock only played one game. But he has gone up against, his stats are going up against the three best teams in the league from last year. Serious weights being lifted by XZ at the Paris Eternal right now. And I honestly don't think the Paris Eternal would be anything without XZ right now. And I think people have to agree with that. I'm sorry. It's a good team. FD God did really well for the Paris Eternal at the weekend, and he could have been on this list as well. But XZ just stood out so much. Now, there are some people you could give shout-outs to on other teams. For example, the two DPS players at the LA Valiant, KSP and KSF. I actually think Gig did pretty well for the LA Valiant as well. I shouted out Bernard earlier. He did well for the London Spitfire alongside Glister. And if I was to do it on actual just single match performance, Babel for the London Spitfire did very well against the New York Excelsior. The problem is I couldn't put anyone for London Spitfire on this list because they did so poorly against the Paris Eternal. Whereas some players have really just completely stood out this weekend. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. We will probably, if you want it, we'll do this again next week and we'll look at the top 5 players from week 2. Because we'll see a whole different ball game of players because we've got Philadelphia, we've got Florida, we've got Washington, and we've got Houston. Should be really interesting to see who pops off for those teams. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.